The Nightmare's Thrall, written by Robert A. Krause, narrated by Kenneth J. Dishman. In the depths of darkest damnation, in a hell beyond evil imaginings, they dwell. The souls of the hopeless, blood pouring from never-healing scars, creating fountains of deep despair. It flows from the failed and the forlorn, filling the pits with tears from sightless eyes. It forms a black pool of helplessness, a bitter ocean of depression, an endless sea of loneliness. It washes over me like a mammoth wave, engulfing my spirit, my emotions, my mind, till I feel drowned by my frustrations and suffocated by my curse. I am Chakan, bearer of eternity's heavy cloak of sorrow. I am Chakan, the Forever Man, wrapped in the mantle of madness. I am Chakan, unwelcome observer of their pain, unwanted partner in their anguish. Through the dreams, the nightmares, chasing me beyond my waking moments, down past my tattered soul, my broken core, until beyond what I am, and even there I hurt and ache, and I scream to the gods, I am Chakan, the nightmare's thrall, and my sleep is never ending. He is a warrior, the ocean, the bird's flight. For some, this scene would bring solace. Others would be inspired to poetry, or at least an appreciation of the majesty and grandeur of creation. But not this dealer of death. Their beauty seems to rip into his soul, unleashing a familiar melancholy. He knows he cannot enjoy the tranquility of the scene. For this brief rest, this small respite, this little slice of quiet time will not last. It never does. Not for Chakan, the Forever Man. He turns his weary body inland and slowly walks away from the sea, as if he could walk away from distant memories of a long ago time when things were different. His body shudders in regret of what was and what could have been. Back to the present. Back to how things are. Reality. Blood. Violence. His reality. Death. Death. It surrounds him. It always has. At times like this, he walks among the still corpses he has wrought this day. He wonders how long it will be this way. Forever? Like the sea and the screeching gulls, he leaves the dead behind, but cannot help but dwell on the anguish that claws to the surface of his thoughts. The frustration of knowing. Tonight, a new dream will haunt his sleep, a new evil revealed, a different pain to experience. The curse, like the warrior's battles, never ends, forever. As dusk drops the full weight of the coming darkness upon his weary shoulders, Chakan takes one last glance backwards, turns slowly, then walks hesitantly into the night's cold embrace. Chakan the Forever Man in the Slaying. Art and story by Robert A. Krause. Narrated by Kenneth J. Dishman. Hellfire eyes shower me with hate. Hate as dark as this night. This most ebon of nights, when once more I must face an evil from nightmares' imaginings, as I have done before, and as I will do again, until the end of my curse. And when is that? When is the end of time? When is forever? Always and always. My life is stretched for eons and will last for eons to come. I travel and hunt and fight and kill, and all I have to live for is the violence, the pain, and the mocking dreams that fill each night. This creature is but another pawn of the one who has set me on this eternal path. I send you to him. I send you to death. Tell him this. Tell death that though the road to his door shall take an eternity to tread, I shall make the journey. And for each scar and pain I have gathered on this mad quest, I shall be paid back 1,000-fold. The slaying is done. The slaying is over. But the questions and the curse continue. Once upon a time, there was a unicorn. It was a happy, cheerful unicorn. He basked in the warm sunshine and frolicked beneath mystic rainbows. At night, the stars seemed to twinkle just for him. And by day, he talked to his friends, the flowers, and wise old Mr. Tree. Life was indeed very beautiful. Until one day, the poor little unicorn came to know fear. Then, pain. Then, finally, the cold, harsh, unyielding hand of death. I hate unicorns. Once upon a time, there was a unicorn. It was a happy, cheerful unicorn. He basked in the warm sunshine and frolicked beneath mystic rainbows. At night, the stars seemed to twinkle just for him. And by day, he talked to his friends, the flowers, and wise old Mr. Tree. Life was indeed very beautiful. Until one day, the poor little unicorn came to know fear. Then, pain. Then, finally, the cold, harsh, unyielding hand of death. I hate unicorns.
All right. I was AFK, obviously preparing something, and came back. The playlist was over. Had to run that twice. It's up, Bo, and Jack, and Margarino. How's it going? So tonight, emphasis on the word tonight, because I have a feeling I'm not gonna be content unless I beat this game in one stream, and this game doesn't have saving, doesn't have um, passwords, so you have to beat it in one go. That is unless you know the secret. There's a secret that skips to half the game, but I don't feel comfortable using that as a checkpoint. I just wanna try to do it in one stream, but we'll see how that goes. This should be a pretty long stream, considering it's already 9:20 our time, and it'll be at least 10 p.m. by the time we actually finish the lore section of the stream. Yoda, what's up? So today I want to talk a little bit about the obscure developer team that formed to do this game, and well, as you can see from the screen, mostly this is gonna be about the Chakan comics, right? I'm gonna have troubles pronouncing the name right. You know, as an Italian, I just want to say Chakan, but apparently it's Chakan. So I gotta go along with that and try. So of course, on the right you can see the artwork that is the one from the video game cover, right? But on the left is an example of the comic book that is the source of this game. Not exactly a comic book, but it is a comic book. So let's get on with this, because this is gonna be good. I absolutely love this game to death. I've beaten this game a few times before, so it's difficult and it's long. It's really good. Not a perfect game, but it's really fucking great. It's one of my favorites. I absolutely think this is one of the best American games for the system. Easily. Top 5 or something. Very good. Captain Claro, what's up? To the death. Dude, that is so meaningful right now, because the thing with Chakan is he's the forever man. The whole thing with him, he is immortal. So the game doesn't have continues, doesn't have lives. You just die. It plays the absolutely gorgeous Chakan Death Scream, and you go back to the portal area, but you'll see that after we start playing a video game, right? So let's see if we can bring up the game cover art, right? It's basically this, but there you go. Mango, what's up? So this game was released at least in Europe, America, and by America I mean the United States, under the name tag Genesis. Here we go. And in Brazil, those are the cover arts you can find online. There's no Asia, no Japan, no Korea, just the West, you know, the West. So let's see what the text behind the box rather has to say. That is usually funny. Well, let's start with the original one. Of course, this is an American game. Let's take the Genesis one into examination here. Of course, not the best scan, but whatever. Let's see what this has to say. All right. Slash at with Chakan's double flaming swords and incredible spinning attacks. Your weapons are alchemy and immense power. Your enemies are the inhuman royalty of supernatural horror. 12 mystic alchemies conjure up psychic passageways to travel through time and space and create potions of invisibility. Yep. Visibility in this game is actually invincibility. The Forever Man. Darkness falls upon the land as I await the return of the visions that have haunted my nights. Dude, I'm a better narrator than that guy from the videos I was playing on the intro. Also, I have a far better microphone. That shit is so hilarious. You haven't seen a 25 minutes one. Good old manga. Actually, that is funny because GamePro right here, an American magazine, wrote Chakan, the Forever Man for the Genesis. This dark character comes from a Japanese comic book. It doesn't. Of course, it's an American comic book. He's a warrior priest who has been stripped of his former powers. Chakan wanders the globe until he can vanquish the cultist beasts of the dark. By Sega. Available November 92. Actually came out in December 92, but that's okay. Probably just got delayed a little bit. Let's keep reading. Where was I? Right. Many years have passed since my arrogance doomed me to this life I now live. For I am condemned to walk the countryside until I can overcome the visions that keep me from my rest. I can rely on only my swords and my knowledge of alchemy to release me from these bonds of time. That's so badass. That's definitely a text written by Robert Krause. Oh, one silver sword, one golden sword? I did never notice that. You're right. You're right. That is not reflected in the game. I wonder if it's the same case in his artwork. Kind of is. Doesn't look like it could be the reflection of the red sunset. But yeah, you're right. Fucking mango, dude. Nah, I don't think it's a reflection. I think it's intentional. We'll see. Might be one was his sword, the other one might just to symbolize the alchemy he has going on. You know. All right, let's check what the European text has to tell us. Where's the English one? Unleash Chakan's razor-sharp twin swords and the arcane knowledge of alchemy on the beasts of the dark. Chakan, the forever wandering soul, must defeat every last bit of supernatural evil to find peace. Oh, dude, I gotta read the Italian one now. Where's... Scatenate le spade gemelle di Chakan, affilate come rasoi, e l'arcana scienza dell'alchimia sui mostri delle tenebre. Chakan, l'anima sempre errante. Per trovare la pace deve sconfiggere il male soprannaturale fino all'ultima traccia rimasta. Porco Dio. Alright. I'm done with that. Up Kale. This game is very difficult, yes, but not as much as people make it out to be. Because you cannot actually game over, and it's very long. Being very long is why it's that hard to beat. And it's actually difficult, but aside from one of the last stages where it's bugged, it's the fair kind of difficult in my opinion. I absolutely love this game unconditionally. Chakan, I don't know what that means in Naples lingo, Kale. Anyways, we were saying Chakan the Forever Man. Now this is a video game, but it's a video game adaptation of a comic book series. So not a manga, as Game Pro seem to think, and was released for the Sega Mega Drive on December the 8th, 1992, or the Sega Genesis, because this is an American game. Its development cycle was of 18 months, which is not that bad, but they still couldn't do all the polishment they could, but they were proud of the product. I read, Dayai-chan, what's up, welcome. It is, it really is. Now, a Game Gear version of this game was also released, which even had I want to play that actually right after or something, maybe next stream. The Game Gear version has a voice sample in the main menu that the Mega Drive one doesn't, so that's interesting. Aside from that, rather than being a normal port, which wouldn't be much interesting for us to look at, especially in 2018, the Game Gear version is its own game, featuring different levels and different magic spells. It's also much easier to beat. It was rather single-handedly developed by Paul Hutchinson under contract by Sega, even though the Game Gear credits on the staff role list Mark Miller and both Steve and Mira Ross. Now we'll talk about these figures. Mark Miller is a VIP, pretty much VIP, and Steve and Mira Ross are just artists for Chakan and other stuff to come, like Blood Omen 2, the Legacy of Kain game. Mark Miller being the Mark Miller is the guy that created the Gem sound driver, but we'll see about that. We'll talk about that. What's up, Banyu? I just started. I don't know. I didn't want to be pushy, but I did type in that. I figured you would read it. I just started. It's gonna be a while before I start the game, though. But you know that. Vivid Zor, of course, picked this game. Let's raffle. All right. So let's see what we have here. We have very interesting stuff here, guys. Now, a sequel was planned and announced by Ed Annunziata, who is this guy, and he has the same last name as my grandmother, except that is the first name of my grandmother. So apparently, his last name is an Italian first name for old ladies that lived the Second World War. So this guy's the producer for Chakan, and obviously it's most famous for Echo the Dolphin. But this is what I'm talking about. There was a sequel planned for this game, supposedly for the Dreamcast and any other platforms back in 2001, but it never saw the light. I actually never played Echo the Dolphin on this channel. Did beat it a couple times and grew up with it. Great game. Great game. Echo and Chakan are easily top 5 American Mega Drive games, I think. Yeah, it's a pretty good video. It's a character attack demo. Now in 2002, Blood Omen 2 came out, featuring many of the aesthetics from the unreleased Chakan sequel. Or do I have that? There it is. A little slideshow with all the artworks from the unreleased game. They're pretty good. So these are by Steve Ross, the same guy that did the art for a number of games on PC, Mega Drive, Amiga. But he did the art for Chakan on Mega Drive, and he was doing the art for the sequel. Then they didn't do it. They didn't do the sequel, and he worked on Blood Omen 2, game most of you probably know. So Blood Omen 2 came out in 2002, and people noticed it had like many elements from this. And he said, well, yeah, it's not like reuse the same stuff, but he said, well, I did these like 20 or 30 full color sketches, which aside from the 3D models, I like this one. Look how awesome this is. These are the 20 or 30 full color sketches he mentions, doing in like 2 weeks. So everything is a blur. He says, like, I don't really remember, but yeah, of course, they share the same aesthetics because I made them. I made both games, so obviously you found the similarities. Now also, Jonathan Miller, programmer and designer for a number of games, including both Chakan and Blood Omen 2, was involved in this unreleased sequel. You can find another good article with lots more info on this matter or at this link. I'm not gonna go too much in depth, but I figure showing these artworks was gonna be really fucking cool because, let's be honest, they're pretty good. Now, the game is programmed by extended play, and I'm going back in the Mega Drive game here. I'm not talking about the sequel anymore. Mega Drive Chakan is programmed by extended play, not to be confused with extended play productions. You might notice I don't have a logo up because there is no logo. There's no information online at all about extended play. But we can get crafting and look at the individual staff members. That much we can do. Now, first and foremost, it should be noted that Mark Miller... this guy rules. Mark Miller, it should be noted that Mark Miller, the guy behind the Gems sound driver, and partly responsible for this soundtrack as well, mostly, doubles as a game designer for this video game, Chakan the Forever Man, as the first time for him. From what I can find, that's pretty much the only game he worked on with more than audio. He did video compression on another game, and then it's just audio soundtracks. This guy's he's a music dude, it's an audio dude. And of course, we're doing the developer shock segment here, so let me light that up. This picture rules, dude. Mark Miller is one of the two VIPs involved in this game, and we've actually already had a chance to introduce him when we played Kid Chameleon, if you remember. There is, however, a really informative article over at Sega 16 that goes really deep on some aspects of the Chakan development, including Mark Miller's point of view on it. Perhaps the good and bad thing about my contribution, he explained to Sega 16, was that I wanted the player to feel the pain and the futility of Chakan's circular existence. While you could choose your path through the game fairly freely, in terms of which level you played in which order, each time you died you had to go back and do it again as many times as needed, just like Chakan. Mark does recognize that the trial and error gameplay may have frustrated gamers. His process for creating Chakan's design was nothing scientific. Mostly, he detailed, the process involved riding my bike over Twin Peaks to the ocean, smoking a joint, riding back over the mountain, dropping my shit off at my studio in the lower height, and heading to the Knock Knock, a San Francisco bar where he would drink and sketch designs on graph paper. The ambience of the location, dark, loud, and sociable, gave him a great environment in which to get feedback and ideas from people about his design. That's a little bit of info taken from that interview. I'm gonna have a link for that later on. Now, the other VIP, which we saw earlier, would be Ed Annunziata, whose last name is very Italian again. But I'm not gonna go in big detail with him either. More chances for that down the Megamarathon line. He was a pretty relevant producer and guy behind the games as far as the Mega Drive scene goes. Now, for this lore shock, I want to focus more on the unique developer team that was behind this video game and the mechanics behind that, a little bit of history, and the source material for it, so like the comic books, you know? Now, after looking at all the people from the Chakan credits, it's interesting to see that they worked on some well-known games after disbanding this sort of phantom theme. I'm not gonna go through all of them individually, but Jonathan Miller, you might have noticed there's Mark Miller and Jonathan Miller. They're two brothers, of course. One is programmer and designer, the other one is the composer. You just saw the picture of. Now, Jonathan Miller, the designer and probably main guy behind the Chakan video game project, went on to make a number of games on the PlayStation, some of which will ring a bell to most. Now, most of these games actually have other people from the Chakan team having worked at, of course. Now let's see some examples. We have Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, and in the same series we have Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Then we have Gex. Is that how you say in English? Not Jax, but Gex. And of course Gex 2 and Gex 3. Deep Cover Gecko, Gex 2, Enter the Gecko. Shout outs to the lady here. And then we have Akuji the Heartless. Now there's other notable titles one can find by looking at which projects the individuals moved on to after disbanding, such as Pandemonium or Bob on the Mega Drive, which was right after Chakan. Here's a very informative interview about this whole scenario. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but now I find the best and most interesting piece of information, as usual, I actually find from interviews. This one is conducted by GDRI, Game Developers Research Institute, to David R. Foley, one of the programmers for Chakan. All right, so I'm gonna read up just the first tiny bit here. So David Foley founds his own company in 1983, but it's like dormant. He doesn't do video games with it. It's called Foley High Tech Systems. Then moves on to San Francisco and works as a contract programmer and designer for Genesis games. As I was a part of the team that developed Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin, Tasmania, and Chakan. We split up the team after Chakan, and I started taking on projects on my own. He mentions it means like his own company. This one. He then proceeds to mention what he went on to do after Chakan. Very interesting insights. Now, I says that my first title under Foley High Tech was Bob. That was followed up with Urban Strike, Flintstones, Michael Jordan, Chaos in the Windy City, Ring of Doom, and Fists of Fury. We worked on 2 Sega CD projects, Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin CD and the Super Strike Trilogy CD. This is all not really related, but there's a really interesting bit here I wanted to mention. We also did the UI artwork and menus for the Sega channel. All of our development was done on a Macintosh 2 system, using the Mac Developers Workshop and some custom tools for downloading and debugging. In 1996, we started work on PlayStation titles, but our first project with Williams was cancelled, and shortly after, our project with Sony was cancelled. I then moved into the arcade business. Now, Dave Foley then explains what we actually care about here. How the team got together. Basically, he met another video game person, Randall Rice, who then introduced him to Bart Sloan, who worked on Chakan as a stunt programmer. More on that later. Why is it called a stunt programmer? Who then introduced him to Jonathan Miller, our main man behind this video game, Chakan. Now, Bart Sloan, and Randall Rice got a contract in 1990 to work on Joe Montana Football and Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin. They then split up, and Sloan hired Foley to finish Spider-Man. Sloan then partnered with John Miller, and they hired Foley, and the 3 of them did Tasmania. They then started Chakan, but Bert got burned out, quit, and formed Monkey Business, which is still active today. You can find more info on why Bert Sloan actually burnt out, and some of the links I'm gonna provide you with, that you can access on the lore page. Foley helped John Miller finish Chakan, then went on to take project on his own, starting with Bob, through his company he had already formed way back, Foley High Tech. John Miller went on to do X-Men games, and Bart Sloan went on to do some 3DO work. This is all from the interview at David Foley, so this is his point of view on the question. What's up, Green Gene? Now, I find these bits of behind-the-scenes mechanics of American Genesis developers very interesting, because there's always some kind of good stuff or drama going on. Now, GDRI wraps up the interview asking Foley about Savage Heroes and Ring of Doom, which are unreleased Mega Drive titles that are actually very interesting to research. And I've taken a look, but we're not doing that here. Gonna have to be for another stream. And this is the full interview in case I did not link that yet. Let me link it for the sake of clarity. Apparently I cannot copy paste links from this fucking shitty text program. Literally cannot perform a single copy paste. What the fuck is this software? I need to uninstall this shit. This is open like Apache or something. Alright, it's in the thing. I doubt anyone wants to click it right now, so we're gonna be fine. It's in the paste bin. Now, he doesn't mention it in this interview, but they were also working on an unreleased browser for the Sega channel. You know the Sega channel? It's the Mega Drive online service, because Sega. The Web Blaster. And I guess we're gonna save the rest of the stuff for another stream. We're gonna have more on Foley High Tech Systems once we actually play one of his games for the Mega Drive, such as Bob. The tease. Now, before we move on to even more interesting stuff, another tad bit of history, as we mentioned, about the stunt programmer Sloan, Bart Sloan, whatever the fuck you pronounce that, Sloane. Now, he got credited like that in the staff role because he first left in what were not exactly good terms. Then was asked to come back by Ed Annunziata once Jonathan Miller had to go back to his brother David, who was suffering from cancer. If you'd like to know more about why he rage quitted and stuff, there is another link here, as usual. I don't know if that Z is part of the link. If it doesn't work, try that Z. Probably not. Subjinkinator. The gist of it is that they were using tools from Zloyan, even though he wasn't working on the game anymore, but they were entitled to it, but he wasn't comfortable with it. Stuff like that. But it's just, let's just not go too deep. I have the research. Let's just have a nice, educative interview here. Now we're gonna have to take a look at the actual source for this great game, and this completes the first part of this, which is the developer shock. Moving on to the comic shock now, guys. Right. Now, it's let's look at the source for this great game. This is a great game, in case you weren't aware. And I would like you to know that one of its strongest points, in my opinion, is that it's the same quality that lets good video games become great, the atmosphere. That's thanks to the source material, in this case, easily. And of course, the skill of the artists involved, both artists, graphical artists, and audio artists. Of course, they did a great job on this game, I think. Now, the story goes like this. Ed Annunziata sees the comic, Chakan, and its author, Robert Krause, both of which you can see in this picture, at a convention, and remains fascinated. And then he makes a game out of it. Now, Chakan is not your regular comic, though. He heavily relies on big illustrations. He breaks the conventions of having word balloons, thought bubbles, or onomatopoeias, sound effects. It doesn't have any of those. It just has text like on top. I don't know how to say that in English. Come una didascalia, insomma. Often the visuals just speak for themselves, and the artwork is really good, actually. But this guy was very much a do-it-yourself kind of guy. Chakan was extremely independently created and published, for sure. Now, I scoured the website of this guy, and it is some 90s shit. We gotta take a look afterwards, because it's silly. It's really crazy how 90s and how just chaotic it is. It's almost like a ramble. But there's a lot of good stuff in there, good material. Let's have a little peek of at what this guy actually did in his indie comic book author career in the 90s. This is his first publication, Aliens of the Cosmos. I actually know the year, but it seems old. Pretty old. And here's the second one. It's called Straight from the Sketchbook. Now, if you visited his website more than once in the past, like I did, this is cool to see, because this already shows one of his recurrent themes, the whimsical monsters, as he calls them. He does a lot of caricatures of well-known superheroes and like little super deformed caricatures and stuff. Master of Orion. I don't know that, but yeah, this is pretty cool fantasy shit. Cloudy Music, what's up? Now, his first success, an actual book series, would be Thunder Maze, selling 19,000 copies in less than 2 months. The story of a young warrior named Otto in a medieval setting in a desperate time. When magic flourishes, creatures of myth are alive and the world is overrun by evil. The legendary Last Dragon gives Arrow his weapon, the Thunder Maze, and its accompanying mystical powers. So you can already kind of see the themes that are present in Chakan as well. Well, monsters, gritty, grim, dark theme, and a main character that is strong with a weapon, but also with magic and and/or infuses its weapon with magic. And here is the Executioner, a one-shot actually. And then Dark Lord, a series that ran for 3 issues about a post-apocalyptic hero. This is all Robert Krause we're talking about from Rack Graphics. You notice I put a logo of that down there. The particular logo, but there is no logo for the developers of this game. I find Rack Graphics to be way more interesting to talk about. So then there is Buse and Gar, although not strictly done by him, but by Jim Groman, which is a member of his company, Rack Graphics. Same for Dragon Valkyr by Steve Simshauser. Now there's various compilation, concept art and whatnot kind of books released by him. They all look very interesting, and it's basically vintage material on sale for cheap on its own official website here. I really be wanting to buy at least a volume of Chakan just to have it and read it because it looks good. But there's so many, I never could choose one, and I never bought one yet. I feel like I should buy one online right now. I think we should take a stroll. I gotta show you how stupidly 90s as far as ghetto website designing goes this thing is. Let's have a look here, guys, because this is pretty, it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. Let's try to have a look together. It's chaotic to say the least. I lost track of a page once. Took me 6 years to find it again. Yo, give everybody donate. There's a donate link to the Rack Graphics website here. So this is the website, right? Yeah, these are the links. Like, this is all different stuff. I see there is some Chakan stuff there, but yeah, posters. Let's check out the posters. Yeah, there is one I wanted to show you. Ah, there you go. Poster 27. Chakan, who's next? But doesn't show you. Oh man, it's $20. I wanted to show the artwork. It's basically a pile of dead superheroes. Like, you can kind of see Superman here. There's a Raphael from the Turtles as well, even Snoopy. And they're all dead because he killed them. I see what I meant about the whimsical monsters. He does a lot of these super deformed little caricatures. They're kind of cute. Wow, there's one with a kiss as well. That's pretty dank. Super freaks, that's what I calls them. Oh, look at that on the right, the video games one. Oh, you can barely see it on stream. There. See? There, it's got characters. That's the meanest Mario you ever seen. Meaner than Wario. Even South Park and shit. But this website is filled with crap. And I mean crap in a good way. It's just crappily arranged. Like, there's board games. Look at that. Chakan limited edition Dragon War game. And then you click it, and you can't see it now, but you opened up a pop-up for downloading. Downloading a video. You download the video, and it's actually a totally unrelated video. Let me show you what video. Clicking that just downloaded for me.
Once upon a time, there was a unicorn. It was a happy, cheerful unicorn. He basked in the warm sunshine.
This website's the best.
And frolicked beneath mystic rainbows. At night, the stars seemed to twinkle just for him. and by day he talked to his friends, the flowers, and wise old Mr. Tree. Life was indeed very beautiful, until one day the poor little unicorn came to know fear, then pain, then finally the cold, harsh, unyielding hand of death. I hate unicorns.
So the website isn't exactly the best structured website, but it's full of those little, just good, good stuff. Good stuff. Chakan Racing Kit. Let's click that. Oh, I downloaded another movie. Chakan Origin. Okay, we're doing this. He downloaded another movie.
My tale begins in iniquity.
No,
Ages
dude,
past,
this is 4 minutes long.
in a time long lost and gone forever.
We're not doing this.
'Twas
We're
a
not
different
doing
world
this.
then, with gods and men and kings and sorcerers, and one other. A warrior priest steeped in the darkest of mysticisms and versed in the skills
Mac
of
Blaza
death
face
dealing.
off. Sword
An
familiar.
arrogant, vain man,
We were pirates. Solitas. Moo.
Chakan.
Hope I didn't
None
miss
could
anybody.
stay my hand or my boast.
Hello there.
That one day even death would bow before my sword.
Can I take a quick pee? I don't intend to have you sit through the whole remaining 4 minutes of this. But if you really want to, I'll keep it up. Otherwise, I'll cut it as soon as I'm back in 20 seconds.
And that I would wrest from him the gift of immortality. Great power inspires fear, and I inspired fear throughout the world. So much so that many of the warrior kings, sorcerers, and gods band together to cast an unholy spell, one that brought forth from unspeakable places death himself. He was brought forth to test my boast. He came for me that day on a misty plain, and even now, an eternity later, I still hear his words. You have served me well, Chakan, and sent many souls to me. But you have grown too strong and powerful. I've been summoned to slay you this night. He smiled, then said,
Alright, do you like this? You want to watch the remaining 2 minutes of it? 3 minutes? I should like cut it. It's full of this shit. I was running a few of them during the intro, and there's even a 25 minutes long one we might watch together. I watched the entirety of it last night before going to bed. It was pretty epic. This guy's voice acting is definitely stream material. But
to a man of death from death himself. A wager. If you win, Chakan, you shall live forever. If I win, your soul is mine to do as I wish. In my vanity, my foolishness, I accepted. The battle was joined and was fought on all levels. The physical, mental, mystic,
this is basically the
psychic.
intro.
On this world and in other planes of existence, with sword and spell, we clashed toe-to-toe, and the world trembled at our unleashed powers. I attacked with such fury, such might, that even death himself was taken aback. Then, incredibly, failed. I had toppled the master. Fulfill the wager, Lord of the dead. Give to me the gift of eternal life. Those were my words as I raised my arms in victory. I should have known. You can't cheat the Reaper. Oh, death gave me the gift of eternal life, but he shrouded the gift with the trappings of hell.